can't see the beautiful view with all these black screens. So over, I guess, the past couple of years, we've had a number of instances where we've discussed the issue of abortion pills either being marketed to Arkansans, possibly being made available to be shipped, advertising this sort of thing on websites. We've talked about some cease and desist letters that we issued in the past. Previously, for example, there was an entity in New York that had indicated that they could ship pills to Arkansas. We addressed that with them, got them to change the language that they were using on their website. This has really become an issue across the country because the Dobbs case gave the abortion issue back to the states to legislate, to regulate. And in doing so, you end up with a lot of different states having different rules and different laws. And so what has come out of that is that individuals, entities in a variety of states target, where abortion is legal, target states across the country, whether abortion's legal there or not. And in many cases, they target Arkansas. They know that abortion is illegal in Arkansas, and so they market to Arkansans through their website, and they indicate that these abortion pills can be made available to Arkansans in Arkansas. Now, what has happened as a result, we've had to address this, as I mentioned, with cease and desist orders. But what's also happened is some states, as a matter of public policy, these states where abortion is legal, they are passing, the legislature, governors, are working to shield actors in their state from liability when they are marketing abortion pills to states where it's illegal, whether it relates to, and you get different policies around the country. They all can be sort of under the umbrella as shield laws, right? Some may say make it harder to extradite someone in a state that allows abortion, where they may be marketing to states that don't allow it. A shield law in a state that allows abortion may say, well, hey, we're going to make it difficult for you to enforce your law, difficult for you to get to reach our citizens, even though they're violating your law. There's those sorts of policies are being passed around the country, and they make it more difficult to impose liability on the actors, more difficult to prosecute those actors. And they are blatant attempts by some states to interfere with other states' ability to enforce our laws within our borders and disrupt our constitutional structure of federalism. So I am leading a letter to the Congress with a number of other attorneys general. I think we're up to 15 plus me, or is it 16 total? 15, and we can get my glasses here. We can get you that letter and that list. Has the deadline hit yet? Or are we still taking? Okay, yeah. So we should be set at 16. What we've asked the Congress to do is take a look at their ability to address this. Their ability. I like to call them sanctuary laws that are being passed. We think of normally sanctuary in the context of immigration, but it's the same sort of concept, right? You're going to allow people to operate in your border in a way that violates our law, that specifically and openly flouts our law, but you're going to protect them from the consequences of that. And we are asking Congress to take a look and see whether they feel like they have the ability. We think under current precedent, under Commerce Clause precedent, they clearly have the ability to address this. And so we're asking them to take a look at that. And so that's point one I wanted to make. Also today, we are issuing 4 cease and desist letters. You should have, where's Jeff? You're giving them copies? Okay. You should have these letters. I'm going to walk you through these. So the first two I'm going to address are Cloudflare in San Francisco, cease and desist letter, and Dreamscape Networks International in Singapore, cease and desist letter. These both relate to lifeasyownpills.org. lifeasyownpills.org. And this website, lifeasyownpills.org, states that the abortion pills can be safely used for up to 8 weeks. It is being these pills are being marketed through this website in Arkansas. We have not been able to confirm, but we have reason to believe that this is an India-based company. And because we don't know and don't have the reach at this point to deal directly with that entity, we are sending a cease and desist order to the domain host for that website, and that is Cloudflare, and the domain registrant, which is Dreamscape Networks International. And we are asking them to make these websites unavailable in Arkansas. So that's what these two are. And if you don't have them, you'll have them in a minute. These two, because they're not dealing with the entity itself in India, they're dealing with the domain host and the domain registrant. They have a lot of the same language. So we have that. So we have 2 other cease and desist orders. One is to Possibility Labs in San Francisco. Now they are the funding behind Plan C, which is it's a project of Possibility Labs, and it advertises that certain medical pills that induce abortion pills may be obtained in all states, including Arkansas. This language is similar, generally speaking, to what we encountered in Jamaica, New York, some time ago when we successfully asked the entity there to change their language, and we got that changed. This is a similar cease and desist letter. So we are asking them to do that in this particular case where it is not marketing to Arkansans. That's a violation, as we indicated previously with the other letters, of the Arkansas Deceptive Trade Practices Act, because it is an unconscionable trade practice to induce someone to violate the laws of the state in which they live. Similarly, and a lot of the language is similar, there is the Mayday Medicines cease and desist letter. This is an entity in New York. Their website states that abortion pills are safe and effective and markets toward Arkansans as well. So we'll get you copies of all 5, the 4 cease and desist letters and the letter that we are sending. That'll go out today, right, to Congress, and that letter, and then there'll be a press release with that. Did I miss anything? I think I got them all. Any questions?
So these companies, if they don't comply with the cease and desist, what's the next step for your office?
Well, we don't like to. We gave the same answer when we were asked last time. Let's take it one step at a time because I'm confident we've had success. Most, let's just say, I'm optimistic that we'll get something changed here. But let's give this let's give them an opportunity to address it, and then if there are next steps that need to be taken, we'll take them. We did have, frankly, a difficulty with the entity. So if you think back, I don't know if you were here for that, but at the time that we sent the letter to Jamaica, New York, we also sent one to the Netherlands, and we did not have. I don't know if that's still they're still doing what they were doing, but we got no response from the Netherlands, and obviously I didn't go to the Netherlands. We didn't go to the Netherlands, and that makes it more difficult. But in the United States, we have options, and depending on where it is, and so let's just give them an opportunity to address it.
What's the type of legislation you want from Congress? And I was wondering if you could explain the interstate commerce issue.
Yeah. So, well, the Commerce Clause just relates to whether you believe my mention of that, and the jurisprudence just addresses whether you believe they would have the power to legislate on this particular issue. I believe we do, and our SG believes that the Congress does have the power to legislate this. In particular, what they could do, what Congress could consider, what we're asking them to consider, is to look at the issue so that these shield laws, if you will, that a lot of states are passing, if they would basically step in and have one federal law that would stop that and allow the states to individually enforce their own laws without interference from other states. They would basically stop them from passing the shield laws. But we haven't prescribed specific language, but we have asked them to consider whether they believe they can do it. We believe they can, and what that might look like.
So can you kind of talk about your collaboration with these other states, especially since more than half the country has some type of abortion law, whether for or against. So can you kind of just talk about your collaboration with these other states?
Well, in this particular case, we led on this letter, and then we asked our colleagues, different AGs around the country, who would be interested in signing on. As is always the case on these letters, we get suggestions from, they look at the draft letter. Autumn and her team did a great job. I believe that, did Justin, thank you. Justin Brasher in our intergovernmental drafted this. But so the way it generally works is an AG or two usually will come up with an idea for a letter. They'll draft that letter, they'll send it around, and with a lot of track changes, sometimes a lot, sometimes a few, suggestions will be made on how to change it to make it palatable. And the people who are behind the letter, in this case, I'm behind the letter, my office, we decide whether we want to make those changes, whether that would water it down too much, whether we're okay with that change, knowing that if you make that change, you get that person who may have some concerns. So that's the type of collaboration. We obviously didn't all get in a room, but we sent this around last week and gave them about 5 days to provide some comments, and I think we got a good group of AGs on here from states that share the same concerns. There were a few language tweaks here and there, but generally the letter is as the letter was.
And then can you also just talk about if you've had any talks with our state senators or state representatives about this particular letter as well? Like, what's that collaboration kind of been like with our federal
Well,
representatives?
we talk to state reps and state senators here all the time. Talked to one last night during my dinner. I stepped away from my dinner to talk with one. But in this particular case, the answer does not lie in our legislature. It lies with the Congress, and certainly we, our intergovernmental folks, I personally, many of us are constantly engaged with Senator Cotton, Senator Bozeman, and Congressman Hill, Crawford, Westerman, and Womack, two of which I served, four of which I guess, with whom I served. So we will be making sure that they get a copy of this, even though this is sent to the House and Senate leaders in the Congress. We will, I believe if they're not CC'd, they will be. Yeah, they'll all get a copy of this, and we will engage with them on it because I think our delegation believes it's a problem too. So I had a snappy question. Oh, go ahead.
Do you think that there is a sufficient appetite in Congress when you send this letter? The president, for one, has indicated, at least during his campaign, that he wasn't going to support any kind of federal restrictions. He would veto a federal ban. So do you think that would be different if it was merely just legislation to deal with shield laws?
Yeah, this is not a federal ban. I'm one who believed that the states were the best places for this. This has more to do with our constitutional structure and states enforcing their own law. This is not about me enforcing New York's law or vice versa. It's not about. It's about one state interfering with another state's with the enforcement of another state's law, and I think they're both related to abortion, but I think that's where a lot of the similarity ends. Now, getting something through Congress, having been there myself, both as a staffer and a member, that's a whole other press conference.
Is there any precedent for something like this? Like, states have different marijuana laws, but marijuana is federally illegal. So is there something that's equivalent of this, or something that's a drug that's regulated by the FDA is banned in roughly half the states?
Well, first of all, I think when you're talking about abortion, since Dobbs, there's a lot that is new for us, particularly during my lifetime. I can't tell you which drugs are or are not similarly situated, but legally that doesn't really. It's interesting that it's novel, but legally that doesn't really matter. So, I mean, this is something that could be done. This is something this actually enhances and recognizes the state's role. But this is more about a state enforcing their own law without interference from another state. And so in that regard, it's novel as it relates to abortion, but there are a number of areas where, for example, I'll give you an example. Now, this is a dormant Commerce Clause issue, but it relates to the Commerce Clause. So states can't discriminate generally against other states. For example, we had a law on the books that, if I remember correctly, required someone to live in the state 4 years to sell liquor, 5 years to sell liquor. And that law was on the books here. It was being defended when I took over. I looked at it and said, we're not defending that, because in the Dormant Commerce Clause, you can't discriminate against people coming in from out of state. The court had already said in a Tennessee case that 2 years or 3 years, I'm missing it by one, okay. The Supreme Court had already said that Tennessee's law that required 3-year residency, ours required 5-year residency, was unconstitutional 7-2. And the court had gotten more favorable or less favorable to the law, more favorable to the Dormant Commerce Clause argument. And so with the recent selection, so there was no way that law was going to be sustained. So I just said I'm not defending it because it was on its face unconstitutional. So, I mean, there was a famous case in law school that had to do with a state not wanting tractor trailer trucks to go down the interstate if they had one trailer after another. So, I mean, and a lot of other states didn't like that. So, I mean, these sort of friction between states, that's not new. As it relates to abortion in this particular issue, that is new. But legally, I think the Congress has the power to do it. We'll see what they do. Yes. Let me go to her. I'll go to you.
What are your thoughts on just shield laws in general, other than for abortion? Because I think it's New Hampshire or maybe Vermont has passed a shield law shielding gun manufacturers from lawsuits in other states. Would you support legislation also banning those kinds of shield laws?
So if there's no one stopping any kind of litigation, first of all, I don't think those laws reflect exactly what this does. I think that has to do with liability issues. And here you're talking about prosecution. I haven't heard anyone trying to prosecute gun manufacturers. The bottom line is I think that states should be respectful of other states' laws, and but I don't think that analogy, that comparison holds up if you dig into the specifics of it. I think this is something different. Yes.
So you talked about the Dobbs case earlier. Obviously, that was kind of a landmark case when it came to abortion rights in the United States. Can you just kind of talk about how the state has been able to, since then, kind of from your office, enforce the laws a little bit more compared to the previous time period before that case was in front of the Supreme Court and before it was had over?
We didn't have any. We didn't have a prohibition. I mean, it's not kinda. I would take the kinda out. It is a landmark case, and it basically gave to the states what we couldn't do before. But again, this is the legislature acting. So we're all about following the law. This is the law. The legislature makes the law. We were unable to prohibit abortion prior, and we can now. And we have. Someone had a snap question.
I think we're gonna do it after.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay.
It's okay, but I do have something about this. I just wanted to clarify, do you all have evidence that someone in Arkansas has bought an abortion pill from these companies, or is it more so it's open to them?
I won't comment on these particular companies. I think these particular I think I could say definitively, correct me if I'm wrong, that these particular cease and desist orders relate to the messaging, the advertising under the ADTPA. We have some other inquiries, investigations that are ongoing that aren't related to this. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. Thank y'all.